Hopefully this new audio equipment is worth it. Welcome, friends, to Oops, Past Turn. And today, we're going to be asking the question, is it time for Izzet? Or wait, how about how to punch with Prismari? Huh? Okay, fine. We're exploring Red and Blue, Commander. Let's go ahead and get into it, because this is a fun topic. What I want to talk about today goes back to, wow, is it story time? I think it is. Here we go. Once upon a time, long before Kali of the Vast, when soul rings were $40 and the leader of your 100-card singleton deck was known as a general, there was a card called Izzet, the Firemind. He was a powerhouse in a format you may know of that was no more popular than Fat Stack or Star, EDH. He was a big, splashy dragon who could combo off with cards like Curiosity and cantrips to devastate your opponents. Spellslinging was popular in Type 1 and Type 2. You know, Vintage and Standard. But EDH didn't have many options. The format wasn't so much in its infancy as it was its primary school promotion. It was a small little format that was figuring out what it was. Over the years, EDH became rebranded as Commander, Izzet as Prismari, and Red and Blue experimented with cards like Brutaclad that focused more on tokens, and Dalakos, which, I don't know, could be a passable casual equipment commander. In 2021, I built a Galazeth Prismari deck, and I've been playing around with it ever since. What was that just now? What did I just see on it? That is not what it looks like at all. It's a dragon. It's a beautiful flying dragon. Let's just get back to the video. I really like the artwork for Strixhaven. The poses were dynamic and the colors were vibrant. Sparks flying out of their fingers and fireworks in the background. I never took apart the deck. In fact, I played around with it a lot. I took cards out, put cards in, asked myself what needed to be done to make the deck stronger, to make the deck more friendly to casual players, to swing wider, to spend more time slinging. And then I built an otter deck for a friend of mine. I don't think the average player realized how much we wanted otters, but move over squirrels, because this might be the most adorable creature type in Magic. Bria was able to do naturally what seemed very difficult to do with Galazeth, and that's balance creatures and spells, because Bria cares specifically about creatures and their ability to benefit off prowess. Whether you're trying to build up to an A+ explosion or flood the field with otters and elementals, Red and Blue and Commander, whether it's Prismari or Izzet, always seems to go back to those earlier days of Magic when you were spell slinging to something grand. And I think about those days sometime. Without further ado, let's get into Is It Time for Izzet? Or How to Punch with Prismari. At the time of this recording, the Pro Tour stats are in, and the standard metagame is being dominated by Izzet prowess, with 140 decks and 42.3% of the field consisting of cards like Storm Chaser's Talent or Corey Steelcutter. What's happening in Standard seems to be mirroring what's happening in Commander, because the new big baddie is none other than Vivi Ornitier. Its text box reads the following. Add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi Ornitier's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. Of course, we can find a way to cheat that. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. There are so many ways to take this deck, and it is once again an extension of the Izzet or Prismari strategy. You're going to want a spell sling for the win. So here we are. You've decided that you want to build your blue-red deck. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is find some of the lost gems that have occurred over the years. Some of the best cards currently in Magic have come out of Doctor Who, Caves of Ixalan, Murders of Karlov Manor, the sets that nobody wanted to pay attention to. And a rare's only attitude for awareness is doing people no favors, as they're likely to miss cards like Meeting of Minds, which has Convoke, draw 2 cards. It's 3 colorless and a blue. All you have to do is wait until your opponent's end step, tap 4 creatures, and you draw 2 cards. For free. Works great in a deck like Bria. Winter Night Stories is getting a lot of attention right now, and it's a rare that a judge friend brought to my attention. It's a 2 blue sorcery that reads, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a creature card. It also has Harmonize, 4 blue. If you weren't paying attention to the clue set, you may have missed out on Corporal Projection. For blue and a red, target creature you control gains Myriad until end of turn. It is sorcery speed, but that overload of 3 colorless, blue, blue, red, red, allows all your creatures to have Myriad until end of turn. I think one of the things that would help a lot of players when running blue and red decks is to work on defining their explosion. A commander being used at full efficiency will guide the type of spells being put into a deck. Galazeth cares about artifacts, Vivi cares about power, and Bria cares about creatures. Each of them wants to be doing something and have spells that are unique specifically to their build. If you're going to chain out several different spells for a win, you want to think of each of those spells as an important link. You can win by casting 20 spells. You can also win by casting 4. But really, you want to keep that chain of combos going until you can get your explosive win. That being said, there's some main pieces that we usually see. The first category involves using looting, rummaging, and cantrips to draw cards. They not only help us move towards our explosive victory, but they also replace themselves in our hand, so we're not left hellbent before we've finished the turn. The second are cards with reoccurring abilities, such as Jumpstart. Hold on a second. Questa è la lingua sbagliata. Thank you. As I was saying, Rebound, Flashback, and Harmonize. Now, thirdly, cards that copy allow you to take your favorite spell in the chain and do it once more. That's why Galvanic Iteration is one of my favorite cards in EDH, because it not only copies, but it has flashback as well. It hits 2 of the topics on this list. Many copy spells target spells, but this says you get to copy your next instant or sorcery spell, which means you can end the stack and finish off with a sorcery. All right, this is the point where everybody's going to get out their pitchforks, but I've followed this rule for a while and it's worked for me well. For the most part, when building an Izzet deck, I tend to go with 38 lands and 10 mono rocks. With the Really? That's not even the right card game. No. Try again. Do you want to go home or should we do overtime? With the exception of running less mono rocks when we're creating treasures with our spells, because that is a common theme in Prismari. I know some of you run far less lands, some of you run less rocks, especially if you have a lot of fast mana. But for me, it's just kind of always been that safe space. I know that if I have extra lands, I can just discard them because I'll be looting, and I don't want to be without mana. That being said, don't forget that some of your lands can be MDFCs, a land on one side and a spell on the other, so you don't necessarily lose a spell slot. Hopefully you liked today's episode. It would mean a lot if you would like and... You know what? Roll the credits.
Va, et merci.